the entire time.
Well, that was a great intro, John. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, we haven't even set up bottom thirds. Well, hello everybody. This is Bulls and Beers, our weekly football podcast. On Sunday nights, John and I, Matt Gritzmacher, talk about Olympic sports. Monday nights, the whole crew gets together for football. This week, we are without Tim, our blog father. He is right now, as far as I understand, becoming a literal father for the fourth time. Best wishes to him and his family for a safe baby and a safe mother and everyone getting out okay and joining the world. The four of us here, we've got Drew and Conrad at this point in the season, normal parts of the panel, and John, who is in and out of everything when he's available, but when he's in, we're glad to have him. Also joins us. We're only 2 games left in the season now. It's the middle of November. Football season's almost over. UB's coming off of a 41-30 loss to Northern Illinois. Not entirely surprising. Northern Illinois is down a notch this year, but I don't think anyone really among our editors or among the folks who commented on the articles preseason expected this to be a win for the team. UB's 5-5 on the season, has 2 great chances, only 1 win away from bowl eligibility, and is going to be bowl eligible. As I said, 41-30 lost Northern Illinois. Kind of deja vu-ish to Joe Licata's junior year. Years past, fell down to a big hole in the first half, 28-3 at halftime. Came roaring back and got within 1 possession twice in the third and fourth quarter. Looked like they were ready to go. Undone by some sacks, undone by a big play on defense, a big play by Northern Illinois. Really, even when this team was down 14-3, I didn't think that was the dagger. I thought the dagger was the defense in the second quarter when it turned from 14-3 into 28-3. And then the dagger was the big play later in the second half. Right after UB's big pick six, they allowed a long reception of their own. The way this was going, it looked like a huge blowout, and that UB would be lucky to escape. They were able to put some fight into it. I think the offense looked as strong as it's shown really all season, dating back to Albany. We'll talk about that for sure. Defense continues to look all right. They really stiffened up in the second half. One big play allowed by Kansas. He had a big play of his own in the other direction. Kind of washes out. Big takeaways, UB's 5-5. They're 1 win away from bowl eligibility. Games against Akron and UMass coming up. We'll be previewing Akron tonight. Akron boasts, like Kent State, a strong defense, not a very strong offense. I don't think in either direction there is much of an extreme as the Golden Flashes were. A big storyline for UB that I don't know if anyone has planned to talk about, we'll talk about, is this was not a loss where UB got out of it and they can put it behind them quickly. There were a number of injuries, especially on the defensive side. Boise Ross, Brandon Berry, both went down with injuries. I believe Berry came back. I believe Brandon Crawford was also lost to an injury at times. That will be really interesting. Fortunately, the break between Northern Illinois and Akron is 10 days. That's the first time in a month or so that UB will have longer rest period than their opponent. Northern Illinois game finished a streak of, I think, 4 games in less than 3 weeks. It was very quick from Ohio through Miami, Kent State, and Northern Illinois. But looking ahead, there's 2 games. Ideally, they win 2. I think most of us would agree they're a better team than each of Akron and UMass, but even 1 would get them to bowl eligibility for the 3rd time since moving up to D1. My take on Northern Illinois, guys, is that as I said, I think the offense had a stronger showing than we've seen in a while. I was pleasantly surprised to see the pass-heavy option actually work and bear fruit in the second half. And I'm not terribly low on the defense, even though there were some pretty damaging lapses in the defense. Drew, I'll go to you first. Do you have any reactions from the Northern Illinois game?
Yeah, definitely. So I think that coming to this game, I really had no expectations of winning, which is kind of a sad thing to say. But given NIU's track record over the past couple of years, I feel that was justified. So a part of me likes this game, but a bigger part doesn't. So a couple things that really didn't settle well for me. So I think NIU had 19 conversions on third or fourth down, and all of them came from run plays. So it just goes to show that there were adjustments that were made that were effective. So obviously, I wasn't in the heads of Brian Borland and Lance Leipold and their staff and what kind of things they did differently. But it didn't really work, whatever schemes they were throwing in. Obviously the short yardage you're going to get from a downhill runner like they had, but even like the third and eights, third and nines, converted on running plays, which is just a little mind-boggling. So the other thing too is just the fact that NIU is such a system-based team. So I mean, I wasn't too impressed by their quarterback's talent or skill level, but he did a really nice job of managing that game, just to the point where I couldn't really see UB coming back as long as NIU had the chance to win the game with the ball in their hands for the last possession, just because they were doing such a great job. So hats off to NIU for being effective at managing the game that way. But I think that's one thing we have to look forward to Akron is the run game, just because they average more yards on the ground than we do. So obviously an emphasis on that as well. I don't know if they do it as effectively as Northern Illinois, but something to look forward to. So.
Cool, thanks. John or Conrad, whoever wants to jump in first, I suppose.
All right, I guess I'll go. Yeah, like Drew, I kind of came into the game half expecting more expecting a loss than a win. I wasn't really expecting UB to come out and beat NIU, considering they've been such a thorn in ours and the rest of the MAC sides for so long. I think the first and second halves of this game, they show that when UB puts it together and they're good, UB is really good and they're a really dangerous team. And they could probably beat anyone in the conference. But first half UB is really bad and they could probably lose to just about anyone. So the team it's really hot and cold, which I think most of us already knew that already. I wasn't too happy with the whole pass-heavy offense in the first half. It seems at any game where Joel Akata throws for 30 or more times, we end up losing. And Adam Mitchison didn't have a great game either.
Sorry. Sorry. Adam Mitchison did not have a great game.
I'm putting that way. And then drunk Matt just kind of funny. It didn't really affect the outcome anyway. We still would have lost if he did hit the two field goals and the extra point. Probably would have made things a little more interesting at the end. Yeah, I mean it wasn't unexpected, but I just want to see more consistency out of the team, more consistently good rather than consistently bad.
Yeah, consistency is a big part, even in the wins this season. Every single post-game conference, every single midweek conference, Lance Leipold's been talking about consistency, and he expects this team to play with more consistency. And I don't think for as exciting as the defense has been, I don't think the defense has played with much consistency. They've been a little bit better in general than the offense, enough to keep the team in games. If the team as a whole can be consistent, as John says, they can beat most teams. I think they've got a great chance of finishing 7-5. We saw in the second half against Northern Illinois what the offense can do. I think that was more along the lines of what we were expecting from the offense this season. 27 points in 2 quarters. 20 points in 2 quarters. I would have been fine with that all season against any opponent. Defense was able to show they could stop NIU, but they gave up a couple big plays, a big run on the ground, a big pass in the air. Conrad, I think you showed up in the game thread. I can't remember the weekday games are always tough for you out in the far Pacific. Maybe it's not the far Pacific, but you're in the Pacific. We didn't get a Vine recap, but I think that was more a factor of you not setting things up than you not being able to watch. So I hope that you have something to say this week.
I did watch, 'cause it was Veterans Day, so I was home. So I think it was like 2. It's now day at the same time. It's 2 o'clock instead of 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I've seen bits and pieces of the two Maction games, and this was the first game I was able to watch in its entirety in a bit. And I think, like everyone else said, I was expecting a loss, and I was kind of just kind of sitting there and not really having the heart to Vine recap what was the first half of that game, which was us getting our brains carved in. But then we had some really good plays at the end, so maybe one day I'll get that out there on film. But what I want to look at, I kind of talking more what John said. I have an article like quarter written, but I've been on this stat for a while. But when we throw it 40 times or more, we don't win. Going back to 2006. We're 2-22 when our quarterback has 40 attempts or more. Our 2 wins were back-to-back, too. 2007 Kent and 2008 Temple, the Hail Mary game. So we almost lost that one, too. I think the Kent game was overtime, or it was 30-23. I'm not sure if it was overtime or not. But not very, very successful when we have to throw it that much. And part of it is kind of self-fulfilling prophecy because you go behind and you have to throw, so therefore you're not going to win. But in this game, I don't know if I feel the same way about it because we ran the ball. I think we were down 30. I think it was 31-10, and we ran that Jordan Johnson touchdown, that deep, big touchdown run. And I think after that, we ran the ball 3 times, and it was still, third quarter, 3 minutes to go in the third quarter. I think we could have mixed up our game. One of our runs was a 3rd and 5, which makes no sense in the fourth quarter. Where we only got 1 yard and we punted. So we threw the ball 25 times against three runs at the end of that game, the last 18 minutes, and we played well. But you also have to say, we had that Jordan Johnson big run. If they were expecting us to pass the ball, some good runs could have been a big difference. And then I also think Jordan Johnson was a weird thing because he only got 6 carries. And, he's been kind of the starting back, the premier back through Anthony Taylor's injuries in our rotation. And he's definitely been our big play back. The big touchdown runs have all been Johnson. So to go to Taylor at the end was a strange one. And I don't know if Leipold is just a slave to his every other series rotation and he doesn't put any thought into it, but it's looking weird right now. Something else I want to talk about. So I think that was probably the bad, that we went pass heavy and it never works. I think the worst or the ugly for me would be, not to steal Matt's article, but the ugly for me is what it's looking like with our home schedule. One thing that you have to give Quinn credit for, something I was really positive with, was at UB Stadium, we were a very good team under Quinn. In the last 4 years, including the Wood games, we were 15-8 at home, 65%, and this year we're 2-3, 40%. And if we lose our game against a UMass, our finale, we'll finish under 500 at home for the first time in 5 years. So that's something I'm worried about. I think we play better at home, and I think, part of it is we just gotten really difficult opponents at home this year, Bowling Green and NIU. But I think we got to play better. We got to win at home. We can't just play better, but we have to have that home field advantage where we get wins where we shouldn't, which Quinn was great at home. And then the final thing I just want to say is, I think a lot of people have kind of fast-forwarded history and where we should be right now. And I think it's kind of past the time where you're expecting, because we have a senior quarterback and a deep offense, that we should beat NIU, and we should be beating NIU at this point. And I've been saying over and over again, when you look at the timelines, we aren't where NIU was when they started dominating. We aren't even where Ohio was when they started dominating. We are where they were right before they did. They have to win. People are kind of sick of beating UMass and sick of beating Kent, but you have to get to that point where you're beating UMass and Kent every day, every year. You're not nervous against UMass and Kent before you get to the point where you're expecting to pummel NIU and Bowling Green. And I think we're just getting to that point where we're consistently 5-6 wins. Then we have to take next step with our next quarterback and more time in the scheme. So I think sometimes we got to dial it back. But you might get a different answer from me if we lose to UMass or Akron. But for now, I think we are where we're supposed to be, and we should be a 7-5 team at the end of this season and a bowl team, and that's where we should be. We're going to string together a 5-6, a 7-5, and an 8-5, something we've never done before. And I think we're one win away from being the winningest team 3-year period, winningest football team over a 3-year period in UB history. So we got to realize that this is kind of new territory, good territory, and we can't criticize the fact that we're not 10-2 this year.
Yeah, that's a really good point from Conrad. He caught a lot of flack for kind of the historical perspective on the blog this year, but when you say that we're one win away from the winningest 3-year period, that includes the 1958 season is, of course, hallowed and held up. Everyone knows the 1958 season. The 1959 team was no slouch either. One win away from being better than that period. I don't actually know how.
No, FBS.
Oh, FBS. Okay.
I'm probably sure we're not better than that because I think they won 9-9 or.
I think they won 9 one year and 8 another year. Yeah.
That's 17 plus probably like 5 or 6 years. So I think there's probably some historical teams that have it on us, but FBS, we haven't been this good and this consistent. We had the last 3 years of Gill, and then we followed it with 2 wins. So we have these 3 years. If we don't follow the 2 wins, then we're ready to take the next step.
Yeah, and I think this is important. I think we're seeing it in other sports too. If I can go on a brief digression, this happens when you let me run the show. Lot of dissent in the basketball game thread today. Fact of the matter is, a ton of the team was gone from last year. It's going to take some time to build chemistry. We felt the same way last year too when Javon McRae was gone. And Conrad said to me privately that in 5 years, last year's basketball team, people are going to view it as a team that was always destined for the championship, and it wasn't. Winning games in the college level was hard. I logged back into UB Fan for the first time in 2 years today, to tell someone they were off base on the volleyball team and kind of the struggles they've gone through there. I'll stop myself before I go too far. But you don't go from a sub-500 record to dominating a conference in one season. It just doesn't happen. If you do it that way, it's because more frequently because of a perfect grouping of talent than because of an actual stable and foundational success that you've got going on in your program. And that success, that foundation may be building, but it doesn't materialize in one off season. I think that a lot of people have ignored that Lance Leipold is the first coach in 50 years to win 5 games in his first season at UB, and that says a lot about what different coaches have to bring in and where UB's foundations have been at. And for all the folks who have maintained that Jeff Quinn started with an empty cupboard coming off of his first season, Lance Leipold has not benefited. He's played too many freshmen this year for anyone to say that it was given a lot of talent in his first season. He's come off and gotten 5 wins. I kind of messed up the sections here. I'm not as accustomed to this lineup as Tim is. Does anybody else have anything else to say on Northern Illinois? I think that you do. Drew or John?
Oh, do you want to do player of the game for NIU?
No. I'm going to do player of the game after this section. If you have anything more to say on Northern Illinois?
I think I'm good. I'm good for the game.
Okay. I think John's good too. So.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Player of the game. I'm going to go with player of the game right now because I have the mic. My player of the game for really the first time this season, I think, is Joe Licata. Very disappointed by 3 interceptions. I can't fault him too much for the last one, which in that situation at the end of the game, you're going for riskier throws. It is what it is. I'm vocal about the first 2 interceptions weren't terrible throws. They weren't great, but the wide receivers could have competed a bit to knock the ball down. They've got to have that instinct to switch into defender mode if they don't think they can get the catch and to fight for the catch. But especially in the second half, I thought Licata was closer to what we expected from him this season than any time otherwise. I I'm still uncomfortable with asking him to throw the ball 47 times, not because I don't think he can throw the ball well, but just because, as Conrad said, 2 and 22 over the last 10 seasons, and that includes Licata, includes Willie, it includes Maynard, Chaz Anderson, and Alex Zordich. Whoever it is, this isn't a program, it's not a setting where with our opponents we're built to pass 40 times and win. But I felt that Licata was as good as he's looked all season. 31 for 47 for 354 yards. That touchdown pass, the 35-yarder to Colin Lisa, was, I think, his best throw of the season. Too often on deep passes, I think, and I'm not the only person who says this, Licata's passes arc a little bit too much in the air. They're thrown too high and hang for too long. And with a receiver like Ron Willoughby, who's 6'5", and can jump a bit over defensive backs, that works out. But it's not the best way to get consistent passes in and caught for big yardage. That pass to Lisa was on a much lower arc, and obviously went for a touchdown. I think that was the first time that UB got within a single score. It was the second time. That brought UB within 48-30, and then we don't need to talk about what happened after that. But my part of the game is Joe Licata. If he performs like he did against Northern Illinois, against UMass and Akron, UB will be 7-5. John, let's go to you first. Who's your player of the game from Northern Illinois?
So a tough one, seeing as you already took Licata and other people already have things called. I'm gonna have to go with Ron Willoughby. 6 receptions, 101 yards. I'm actually basing this purely off of the stats, which is kind of stupid, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Ron Willoughby. That's all there is to it.
All right, solid work there. Willoughby did have that early catch on the first drive that allowed UB to take the lead. Bummer that the red zone still sees a total change in the team, but that's kind of the quick strike thing that I think UB needed to show they can compete with Northern Illinois. And they got on the first drive, and over the course of the first half, they kind of got worn down a bit and allowed a big play here and there. Conrad, who's your player of the game for the Huskies?
Yeah, it's a hard week for that. It's hard to pick someone on the defense, but yeah, I think I'm gonna go with. I'm between two people. I'm gonna go with just Jordan Johnson, I guess. I think we were down big when he got his big run, and 6 carries for 66 yards, 11 yards per carry. It just makes you wonder what would happen if he got more touches, and he's really been that explosive playmaker that we don't have, and we continue to struggle with explosive plays over 30 yards, and we continue to give them up. And I think maybe two of the biggest plays in the game. Well, I get the 4 biggest plays in the game are the 4 big yardage plays. The NIU run 58-yard touchdown run, which helped them open up the game. Jordan Johnson's 47-yard touchdown run that got us back into it. The pick 6, which gave us all the momentum, and felt like we were going to actually come back at that point. And then the big touchdown pass they threw to take all the momentum back. So for this team that struggles in the red zone and the dead zone, having a big playmaker is key. We need more of it, and if Jordan Johnson keeps running for long touchdowns, I'll keep giving him the MVP.
Cool. Drew, you're last up.
Sure. So I had kind of difficulty picking the player of the week this game, and it's not because people didn't play well, because there were a lot of good plays during the game. Obviously, we put up a good amount of points, higher than a season average. Licata, I couldn't pick him. Too many interceptions. Jordan Johnson, not enough carries. Just the 47-yard touchdown out of the Wildcat, which was pretty impressive. But so I kind of have 2 half player of the games that they didn't quite make it, because I don't think they did enough to make player of the game, but they could have. So the first would be Cam Lewis. And I've been pretty high on Cam Lewis throughout the season, and obviously he's a true freshman, and I think that he will do a lot of great things at UV, but obviously there's still room to grow. So he had that awesome pick six, and then on the following drive just got absolutely burned by the wide receiver, and because of that I couldn't give him player of the game, just because all that momentum, like Conrad said, just shifted away. And the second is Nick Gilbo, who had a season-high 19 tackles, which is the most for UB since 2008. So good job, Nick, but I'm kind of collecting you in with the entire run defense. The 334 yards rushing just kind of falls on the linebackers and those front seven. So I couldn't give it to him either. But if you were to mold a Cam Lewis and Nick Gilbo hybrid together, maybe they would have deserved player of the game.
Yeah, Cam Lewis, boy, he can fly. When I'm kind of doing my job on Twitter and getting the instant recap ready, I don't spend a lot of time actually watching the game. I spend a lot of time on live stats, and if there's a play that I want to see, I flip to the video. And that interception, I was really impressed with how quickly he made it back into the end zone. On that next play, they went right at him. They targeted him. They said, "This is a true freshman. We're going to beat him with a double move," and that's exactly what happened. And that's something
on that first play, he read it perfectly. So he knew that he cut in and throwing to the inside and just kind of read it really nice. So he got his ego up. Obviously thought that he was able to read the quarterback pretty well, and said like, "Hey, they're doing the same thing again," and it wasn't the same thing, and he got burned. But
yeah,
that's all right. He's young.
Yeah, he's young. That's my takeaway. You know, the announcers. The announcers talked about how on the first play they said he's reading it the whole way, and he didn't really break until the quarterback let go of the ball on the first one. On the second one, he was reading it the whole way, and he got bit, and that's okay. Gilbo, whatever happened to Devontae Shannon? Because Devontae Shannon's the only guy or the most recent guy to put up 20. When you threw up 2008, I feel like Conrad's the guy who would know what happened to Devontae Shannon.
I don't know what he's doing now, but he did end up on the Redskins. He was on the roster, played preseason the first year after he left UB, didn't make the roster, and then
and then disappeared.
I think he moved on. Yeah,
he didn't hang on like Naaman for bits and pieces of a half dozen years. Naaman's he's starting to build an all right career in Canada. Let's hope he sticks up there. Moving on, that's Northern Illinois. I think kind of get the vibe from all of us. Northern Illinois was a loss. It wasn't a totally unexpected loss. They scored 30 points. That's swell. But it didn't. I don't know. Nobody's despondent. Nobody's looking at Northern Illinois and saying the season's over, like they were midway through the Kent State game. But there's not a lot to say about it. Akron is a game that hopefully we will have a lot to say about in a week. The Zips are, let me get to the right tab here. Zips are also 5-5. They're sneaky. Zips fans are thinking bowl game just like we are. I don't know quite who they finish with. They finish with us, of course, and then Kent State. So they've got to be viewing those as two winnable games. And Zips fans are thinking bowl game too. The MAC now has six affiliations after Army was ruled ineligible, so the MAC team will go to San Diego as well for the Poinsettia Bowl. And Zips fans, they're, as I said at the top of the show, they're similar to Kent State but less extreme. Their defense isn't quite as good. Their offense is a little better. They're coming off of a 37-28 win over Miami, which is their highest scoring game in a long time. They only managed 12 on all field goals against Ohio. They did manage 47 on Eastern Michigan, but Eastern Michigan doesn't really count. They got walloped by Bowling Green, pretty similar to our CMU game. They held CMU to 14, but only scored 6 themselves. And they won another close one against UMass, 17-13. They won the games, won some shootouts. Kind of a mixed bag of a team. I've got some things to say, but maybe I'll wait. Let me check and see who's ready for Akron. Drew, we'll start with you. What do you see from Akron? Not necessarily keys to the game, but just what
Yeah.
do you see in terms of previewing them?
Yeah, so I mean, coming into this game before kind of taking a good look at Akron, I kind of penciled this in as a win, as an expectation. I expected to win. But kind of looking at it some more, it's kind of weird how similar UB is to Akron, just in terms of statistics and the way the season has gone so far. So just comparing a couple things. Obviously, the record is the same amount of touchdowns and interceptions for both of us, 8 and 8. Third down percentage is like 0.5% off for conversions. Both have 15 sacks. Red zone scoring is pretty similar. So just looking at that kind of stuff, like it kind of scares me a little bit, just because I think this game could go either way. It kind of depends on what UB team shows up and when they decide to be consistent and what halves they want to score in. So I am a little worried. But so yeah, I'll stop right there. I'll save some for the other part.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, Akron is a team where I knew how I felt about them. I think I felt very similar to Drew, and I pulled up, and as I said, I had checked their record. I'm a little surprised to find they're 5-5. They're pretty rush heavy. They're 397 rushes on the season to 291 passes. Got 4 different guys averaging 4 yards per carry or more, including their quarterback, who's rushed for 421 yards on the year. Conrad, do you have anything to preview Akron, or?
Yeah, very similar to what Drew said. It's turnover margin. They're very similar. I think they have 19 gained and 16 lost, and we have 17 gained and 15 lost. So they're +3, we're +2, and they've actually one of the few teams that have more turnovers forced than us, and that's been one of our fortes. So yeah, it's actually kind of scary. It's pretty funny that this Akron team was kind of poised to blow us out last year when we were at our lowest point, and we destroyed them. And then I think we kind of felt like we were going to destroy Akron this year, and now we look kind of even. So we've kind of come down to their level, and they've maybe come up a little bit. I don't know. But I will say this is a huge game. Right now, my bowl projections, I project this game as an Akron win. The way I do it, even teams, home team wins. That usually holds true. Almost like 90% true last week. So as a result, Akron ends up being the 7-5 team, and we end up being the 6-6 team. And after the results of this week, there were one more bowl eligible teams than bowl spots. So when you're looking at being, and I think there's about 4 MAC teams that would be eligible without a home, even with the Poinsettia Bowl. So when you're looking at being one of those teams without a bowl slot, when you have to put your resume up against Akron and you just lost to Akron, that's really going to be really going to hurt. So, and then another team that will be there if they end up on the bottom of that MAC West lineup will be Central Michigan, who destroyed you. So that really starts to put the anvil around your neck, and you just have to hope that our AD would get us in there just from just good bargaining. But otherwise, it looks bad on a pure football comparison level.
Yeah.
Not really a key to the game, more just a plea that we have to win it.
Well, we'll have keys to the game in a minute. We'll see if our AD is around for the time that it takes to lobby bowls for their invite. We might be outsourcing that job to the MAC, and that's one thing the MAC has done well, and we'll talk about this when the time comes. The MAC has done a good job. Is he consistently negotiates to get the conference's bowl eligible teams into bowls beyond just the MAC's contracted bowls. But yeah, definitely a possibility. I think I've been putting together the bowl posts from around the internet, and very few projections have both Buffalo and Akron in bowls. It's one or the other, and you figure that it'll come down to kind of the head-to-head matchup right here. One will be 6-5, one will be 5-6 going into the last week. Each team has a winnable game last week. John, do you have anything to say? Oh, does Conrad have more?
Oh, I was just to say, on my I might be biased, but I have them both in just because Quick Lane is going to have no one from both sides. So
Mhm.
Quick Lane's going to have to, I assume they're going to, versus like a UL Louisiana, UL Lafayette, they're going to want a northern team over a southern team for that. So I think that actually gives us the edge of the Sun Belt. The one time we have the edge over, a southern team for both. So I have us both in, but I'm not holding my breath that we both get in. So
All right, well, we'll see. John, anything to preview from Akron, or?
Yeah. You said Akron is sneaky good. Akron.
I didn't mean good. Let me rephrase that. Sneaky comparable to us. How does that feel?
I'll say this, Akron is a good football team, but not the kind of football that we're talking about.
Oh, no, John. Oh. Keep
With all
talking.
due respect to the men's soccer team, they played a hell of a game. Akron is they're a good football team, but not the kind of our kind of football that we're talking about here. I I feel like there's going to be a cane to come over here and drag me off from in front of the camera. Um, I'm looking at Akron's schedule, and they've kind of beaten the people they were supposed to beat. None of their wins come off as really impressive. I mean, when you beat up on, a 2-9 Miami team, I mean, we did that as well. But they beat UMass, they beat Eastern Michigan, beat an FCS team, they beat Louisiana Lafayette. None of those wins are too impressive to me. UB did beat Ohio pretty handily, and they actually have a winning record. I think they still have a winning record. Yes, Akron. Their record is a little misleading to me. They're a team that we put up 50 points on last year, and they don't really scare me that much. So I'm really not too worried about the game because they're just not great.
All right, we've got you on the line right now. John, key to the game.
Oh, key to the game. How about that? Key to the game. All right. Key to the game. Turnover margin. I just went through all of UB's games, and in the games where UB has an even or positive turnover margin, they are 1, 2, 3. They are 4-0. They've only won one game when they've been behind in the turnover margin, and that was against Miami. Every other game where we've been behind in the turnover margin, we've lost. So it's all about the defense stepping up, making big plays, limiting the Akron's chances on offense, especially because they're more of a rushing team. Force them into a position where they have to pass the ball. Their quarterback, their primary quarterback, he's thrown like 10 interceptions this year. So he's a little bit mistake prone, and our secondary has shown that it can be a bit opportunistic when given the chance. And another guy we got to look. Another quick little key is trying to stop Jatavis Brown is how you say his name. He's the senior linebacker. He has 10.5 sacks already. I think he's their most dangerous defensive player. So our offensive line's gonna have to be ready to slow him down. He has a Flacada. If his jersey gets stained too much, we'll be in trouble.
For my key to the game, I think we've been preaching this all season, and it feels like beating a dead horse. But UB needs to find success in both the running and the passing game. I asked last week for Joe Licata to get into a rhythm against NYU. I felt that was very important to find success in the passing game, and once he did, they scored 20 points in the second half and got within a single possession of NIU and had the ball with a chance to tie it up, and then penalty and 2 sacks kind of ruined that in a short punt. Last year against Akron in that giant 55-24 win, Licata threw for 4 touchdowns on just 21 attempts. He only had 193 yards, and if I'm not mistaken, his touchdowns went for 89 yards. So half of his yards went for touchdowns against Akron last year, and Anthony Taylor and Jordan Johnson each went for 100 yards. They had 52 rushes to 23 passes last year against Akron. I would like that distribution. I don't expect it at all, but I'm hoping for positive yardage from both the running and the passing game. I'm hoping not for early possessions that are either all pass or all run, like we're kind of seeing in kind of our bull run back offices chat. Conrad harps on that a bit. I'm looking for a balanced offense that's effective. I think that Akron's got a strong rush defense, but I'm not sold on their pass defense, and I think that UB does need to gain yards from both. I think that they need to commit to Jordan Johnson, give him more than 6 carries, and there's the opportunity to gain yards from both of them. There's an opportunity to score a bunch of points against this Akron team, but to do it, they need to keep the zips on their toes, and they need to not fall into a rut, and they need to not give this team chances in their home stadium like they've done against Miami and Kent State. They need to take the lead and hold the lead and extend the lead. Conrad, what's your key to the game?
I'll just go back. I don't really mind the all run, the all pass. I think if in NIU they came out throwing the ball and they found something that I thought they could exploit, and then they kind of just shut it down and ran 3 run plays and got it stopped. And I think our offense has been too smart for their own good in a lot of ways, and that's one way. And you kind of see the pass game, make them stop it, and then once they adjust to stop the pass game, then you open up the run game. You kind of have them chasing you instead of trying to anticipate them chasing you and running yourself into a wall just because you think it won't be there. But I won't go there any more than I already just did. I'm going to talk about my keys, which are bend, don't break. This Akron team, I think, kind of moves a little bit better than us, but they score less than us. And they have, as I think Drew said, they have about the same problems in the dead zone that we do. So that kind of falls into our hands. We like to be aggressive. That's why you see something like the Cameron Lewis interception, pick 6, and we let up some yardage, but if we can stop them from getting 7 and make them get 3, that's a win for us. In the games that we've lost, like NIU and BGSU and CMU, we gave up 7, and that's how you go down 28-7 instead of going down 12-7. If you get 4 field goals in the first half, I don't care if they get 400 yards. And you look at the Ohio-Akron game, that's kind of what happened. Akron outplayed Ohio, but they only scored 4 field goals, most of them, I think, from within the red zone. And Ohio scored 2 touchdowns and won the game, 14-12. So on defense, I think we just got to play with our defense and just not get beat deep, not make sure that we make them run in from the 1-yard line and not from anywhere else. And then I think on offense, I said it last week, was not listened to. NIU was a huge interception team. I didn't want the ball in Licata's hands to turn it over, and the ball was in Licata's hands and he turned it over. This week we have DeAndre Scott, 6 interceptions on the year so far. I don't want to test him, even though if you put him on Willoughby, we do have Lisa, we do have McGill, we have Weiser. There's no reason for us to test the best cornerback on the other person's team. So let's not do that. And I also think we need to run the ball more, even though Akron has a very tight run defense. I think we have to start wearing teams down. I think we started to see NIU wear down that third quarter. They've been playing action like we have. At the end of the third quarter, we went from not getting any breathing room on the run game to getting a 47-yard run. At that point, we got to exploit that. Sorry about the sirens. So
Hawaii 5-0, baby. Hawaii 5-0.
I have 3 times Akron's opponent have ran more than they passed. And each time they beat Akron, that was Pittsburgh. They ran it 46 times, threw it 25 times, won 24-7. I have Ohio. They ran it 32 times, threw it 29 times, won 14-12. And I have Bowling Green. They ran it 42 times, threw it 33 times, and won 59-10. And the interesting thing about the Bowling Green games, they ran it 42 times. They only averaged 2.8 yards per run. But because they were establishing that run, when they did throw it, they completed 82% of their passes, and they threw it for 412 yards. So, kind of, hearkening to the Quinn days, we're gonna pound it into the line, and then when they come up to adjust for that run or to stop it, you're gonna hit them with the big throws deep, and you're gonna have those high percentage play action pass throws. I really miss that game, and I think that's the key to beat Akron because they have a really solid. Just like us, they have really good run defense and a really solid corner on one side, and they're gonna just pressure you into the other side of the game, of the other side of the field until you make a mistake on that side. And I think we have to kind of get them out of their game, run the ball, force them to bring people up, and then beat them over the top.
Yeah, I too would love to see a return to that style. They've certainly got the runners for it. Drew, I've saved you for last intentionally because I wish I had thought of your key to the game before you thought of it and wrote it down. So share it with everyone else for us.
All right. Well, so I'll start off. I kind of have a lot. So it's actually kind of interesting. So Akron is 1-3 at home this season. They're 4-2 on the road. UB is 3-2 on the road, I think. They are 3-2 on the road and 2-3 at home. So home field advantage might not play as much of a factor as we think it might, just because the Zips have shown that they can't really put up a victory at home. But looking farther than that, Akron is more penalized than us in conference play, which is that is one kind of progression that the Bulls have made, I think. So as the out-of-conference games ended, penalties were kind of a huge deal, especially on the offensive line. But in conference play, they have progressed a little bit, and I think they're right in the middle of the MAC in terms of penalties per game. So that is one step that I have liked to see so far. And the other, so I think this is the main thing, and we've kind of touched on it earlier, is how kind of close these two teams are statistically, is that we just need to outcoach them. So we haven't really outcoached anyone this season. We've kind of beat the people that we were supposed to beat in closer games, i.e. Kent, i.e. Miami. So I would love to see a game where Kotelnicki, Leipold are just a little bit more creative in the offensive schemes, and then also just limiting their mistakes. So last game I wanted to rip my hair out when they had those 2 consecutive penalties of too many men on the field, and then so obviously you have a little break for that, and then there's guys running from the sidelines when they're snapping the ball, and I was like, it's just, how do you let that happen? There's honestly no excuse for that. I think it's just a lack of focus, and obviously in that situation I don't remember what the score was, but I think it was towards the later stages of the game, so obviously that's some significant impact on the outcome. I think they were in the red zone and they've extended the drive even. But yeah, I really would like to see offensive schemes get a little more creative with their play calling, and we just have to limit those mistakes.
Cool. Yeah, I was referring to the penalties stuff, but you gave us a lot juicier of a section. Closing in now.
I didn't know what you were talking about, but
oh, I know. I did a poor job of setting that up. Closing in now on end of the show. It's nearly midnight. I think we started a little bit late, so we're probably good on a time wise. I'm looking ahead to the predictions. I don't think any of us are really in the running for a Brewpeg championship. Our highest scoring is Tim, who at 17 points is a full 8 points behind the leader, UB Hoops 03. After Tim, John McWhinney's at 16, Drew's at 16, After that, let's see. I'm at 14, which is below average. Conrad's at 12. Just at least doing better than Robbie Johnson's sim program. for all the conversation those posts build, it's not doing a very good job predicting games. I'm going to go to Conrad first because he's the only one to write anything in the prediction section on our planning document, and he's teasing me a little bit here. So we all try to be coy, but Conrad gives me just enough to catch my interest. So Conrad, what's your prediction for the game?
So, as you just said the score, I don't know what I'm doing with this game, so I went with that. I went with my heart, and, when I really need to make a tough call, I call on the random number generator, and I always pick UB, so I'm going to just pick the bigger number that was randomly generated and call that UB score, and it's going to be UB 47, Akron 15. And it's kind of crazy score, but I'm pretty sure UB is like due for some craziness because they have for a while shown us something like BGSU in Nevada and Central Michigan, and once you feel like you know where this team is going, they whip out Ohio, and then after you feel like, okay, we got Ohio, they give us what they gave us the last couple of weeks, which has been not great. And I think now you start to feel like, okay, well, this is a 4-5, 5-5 team, and maybe they'll give us something amazing, which will make me very, very nervous for UMass. So, yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about, and I don't know how to play this game, so I'm just going to randomly generate it. Thanks.
Sounds good. John, other end of the spectrum, you at least are in the mix to catch Tim and Dave, both a point ahead of you for the Bull Run Editors Championship, which, if you ask me, is more important than the overall championship. We haven't heard from you a bit tonight. What are you thinking?
I won Brewpeg off of week 1 off of Jacob Martinez's punt return for a touchdown, and then since then it's just gone right crashing down to the ground. So this is where I turn it around. Hopefully, I'm gonna go UB 35, Akron 24. Akron hasn't done enough really to show me that they can come out and beat us based on their talent pool and how good their team is. The only way UB loses this game is if they do what they've done in basically all of their losses so far this season and shoot themselves in the foot. So if you see, like I mentioned earlier, turnover margin, if UB gets behind in the turnover game, if Joe Licata is having a rough night and not throwing the ball well, not connecting with his receivers, and if we can't get anything in the run game going, it's going to be a long night. I think that's the way Akron wins it, is they more or less have to hope that UB shoots themselves in the foot. But if UB comes out and plays a nice, clean game, I think they win no problem.
Cool. Drew, I'm going to save you for last again this round. Next week, hopefully we'll have Tim back next week. Let's make sure to not have you last in the rounds. I'm focusing a bit on UB's had some injuries to kind of the big guys up front. A bit concerning there. Looking at the final 2 games of the season, win this one, win the next one, get a chance at the postseason, get to finish strong. Coming off some rest, thankfully, they had a bunch of games in quick succession, getting some rest. I think that they got these injuries up front. Looking ahead, maybe the last game of the season, I've got Buffalo 68, Akron 59. I think Xavier Ford comes through with a big game and sends you beyond to 1 win away from the postseason this year. John, what are you thinking? Or I'm sorry, Drew, what are you thinking?
All right, so I've been kind of foreshadowing, hinting at this for the entire the podcast, but I think Akron's going to take this game. I got to go with my gut on this one, and I don't feel good about it. I don't know. I can't put it into any certain specific stats of why I think Akron's going to win, but I'm going to pick Akron for 2 reasons. First reason being, I just don't see us out-coaching Terry Bowden. Second reason, to build credibility as a sports blogger. Obviously, there's bias among every writer. So, in order to build that credibility across certain borders. I'm going to pick Akron. Um, I am also not going to go as high as you guys. I don't think this will be a high-scoring game. I'm going to go 23 Akron, 18 UB. That's what I'm going to go with.
All right. Good news, Drew. You're not the first picker to pick Akron this round. We haven't gotten many picks yet. I think people are grateful for a breather. But somebody else picked Akron before you. John McWhinney's asking for the Benedict Arnold pictures. I don't have it ready right now. Well, ideally, that becomes a new tradition on Bull Run. We've still got our shout outs, but that'll pretty much wrap up our show. Hopefully we've said our piece about Northern Illinois. Oh, Conrad with the big stat, as he does. Conrad reminds us that Turner Gill and Jeff Quinn both lost to Akron in their first season as coaches. That's a bummer. I
believe the Gill lost to the MAC championship Akron Zips, and Quinn lost to the worst team in the history of FBS football, Akron Zips. So it depends on which one's a bummer to you.
It both kind of are.
Kind of proud of the 2016. They kept it close. The 2010, I was actually in Cleveland, and I was like, maybe I'll go down to the game, and I didn't go. And I was just like, if I had gone to that game, I would have ripped some seats out of the brand new stadium. I'd have been so mad. I think that was iCoach's only FBS win. I think so.
Yeah, pretty. Oh goodness, I hope we get this win because I'm going to be in attendance for the UMass game, and I do not have a good record of traveling to see Buffalo, whether it's traveling back to Buffalo or traveling around. Hopefully we've broken it with wrestling's visit to the D.C. area a couple weeks ago, but we might not have. We don't have a good record when Matt travels to see Buffalo. Heard about the NIU game, put that behind us. Previewed Akron a bit. Not a lot to say schematically. They're very, very even matchup team statistically with us. Got us all a little spooked. We'll finish up with shout-outs. I don't know if anyone has a shout-out planned right now. Nobody's got anything written down. Drew, we'll go back to you since I've kept you last for so long tonight.
All right. Well, thank you for the opportunity. So Robbie requested me to talk about basketball, so I'll talk about basketball. I'm not going to talk about the game because we all know how the game turned out. I don't feel like talking about it right now. So I'll talk about the broadcasters and how literally awful they were. So obviously I know that the broadcasters for the different schools have ties to the school, and they're going to show more love to that school and focus on their players, and they should because obviously they're calling the game week in and week out. They don't know the UB players, and I understand that. But it was actually crazy to me how unprofessional they were. They were literally calling out Nate Oates on different occasions. I have some direct quotes. So obviously using the cliche of letting the inmates run the asylum in reference to them wearing different pairs of shoes, which, you know, I get that. Like, it's a team sport and they should have uniform kind of stuff. But the amount of teams that have, you know, those individual characters who wear different kinds of shoes, and that's obviously a big thing in NCAA. And there wasn't even anyone on the court that was like blatantly just weird, like pink zebra stripes, anything like that. So they were talking about some more. They went into depth, and they were talking about just how the team wasn't playing as a team, just playing as individuals. I think one of the broadcasters made a point out during the later stages saying that he would not in a million years buy a season ticket to watch UB basketball. Just kind of really uncalled for stuff. So being the social justice warrior I am, I searched around for some contact information. I sent them a nasty email. So looking out for UB Nation.
Old Dominion's not a basketball powerhouse area, right? Hampton Roads puts out some all right high school players. That's where Shannon Evans comes from. But Old Dominion's not. I guess they've made it to the dance more often than not the last couple of years, but I don't know. Someone saying they wouldn't in a million years buy a season ticket just seems ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know their track record, but obviously they're probably looking at a top 50 team this year. they played really well. We played pretty bad.
Yeah.
The broadcasters like put themselves on some kind of pedestal, and it was just really strange and really unprofessional for me to hear that kind of stuff. And I know some people in the game thread noticed that also, so it was good to see. Um, but yeah, it just kind of made me really mad that I paid $10 to kind of hear my team get shat on. So I don't know.
Yeah. Well, St. Joseph's in 2 days. Women's basketball versus Canisius tomorrow. We'll talk about that in a more appropriate venue. Conrad, you got a shout out for us this week?
I guess my biggest. I mean, I'm probably taking someone else's, but I will just talk. I think the biggest story we've had right now is AD rumors, and first thing, I was just thinking. Maybe I posted it, but I was just thinking about the time that we thought Quinn was taking an interview, and we had written the story. It was right after 2013, so it was the only time we were kind of wanting him to stay around, and we were calling him this and that for his reasons of taking the interview and whether he was gone, who we replaced him with, and it ended up being nothing. So we have to think about that and just wait until we get official word before we, say what we have to say. And then even if it, I think we often get into reflections on the tenure of our athletic director. And I think we've done a pretty good job of getting rid of a lot of the clamor, but I think this scenario brings it back. It brings a lot of the people that have already said their arguments and they're gone. Now they come back to repeat their arguments, and I really got to think that you can't look at what we've been doing in the Olympics from men's soccer going to a final, women's soccer going to a semifinal, both our soccer teams having to be beat by the champion. I think I mentioned this last podcast, but being that team, basically, I think we're on phase 2. We were, I guess the alpha is we were just a laughing stock. We were putting teams out there, but they were not really teams, and no one came here and took us seriously. And then, starting with, I think, basketball in 2004, we started to become somewhere in that you have to actually prepare for, and that's kind of phase 1, being competitive. And now we're kind of on phase 2, trying to make sure that we have some fan support, something that's more than just the game. But in addition, we also have all our teams competing for championships. And, you really have to bring your A game when you come into Buffalo. And even NIU is probably walking away thinking that because we gave them a bit of a scare in that third quarter, in the fourth quarter of the game. Bowling Green just escaped, still hasn't seen a defense like Buffalo hold them as far as points. So, long story short, I mean, if you say anything else, you're ridiculous. You have to see the progress we are, and we're getting there. And I think as long as we have a unified Buffalo, New York nation, we're going to get to the next step, that Temple UCF step that they've kind of gotten there. We'll get there. So don't say that. don't get the day they get Russ Brandon in that athletic director area. This day I quit. I'm done. No.
If One Buffalo applied to us, we'd have a hockey program by now. That's how I feel about One Buffalo and UB.
Oh man, I can't stand it. But hey, our hockey team is looking really good now. But anyway,
well,
but
don't
my
get me
point
started on our hockey team.
is I think we needed so much that we needed a kind of guy like Danny White. We needed a guy like Ward Manuel, and we're going to need the next guy whenever he comes to do his role. And we're going to be good as long as we stay strong as a fan base and not let this little stuff tear us apart like the name on the jersey.
All right, John, I'm reserving the right to go last because I'm the moderator tonight. So I'm going to give myself 2 guesses as to where you're going with this, and I'll bet I'm right on the first one. But go ahead.
You probably are. My shout out, Conrad mentioned progress and getting better. And if you know me and the one sport that I follow and love at UB more than any other one is wrestling. And if you do watch the Sunday Night Olympic podcast that Matt and I do, well, one, good for you. Keep it up. And two, well, if you don't, then you should watch it. Uh, but my shout's to the wrestling team. They went 2-1 this past weekend at the Northeast Duels. Uh, Completely dominated Springfield College, 51-0. It was actually their second straight shutout, which it's their excuse me, is their first two shutout season since the 05-06 season. And it's their best start to the season at 4-1 since that same season, 05-06. Beat Springfield. They took West Virginia. Uh, it was a tough duel. West Virginia is ranked top 20 in the nation. They lost 19-13, which a couple of matches were only decided by a point and in overtime. And then Jake Gunning against Lockhaven came down to the final match. Whoever won the heavyweight match would win the duel, and Jake Gunning came through to finish the day 3-0. Along with he and Colt Cotton and Brian Lantry all finished 3-0. Colt Cotton's a guy. He's been a wrecking ball this season so far. He's 5-0. He's completely dominated every single guy he's wrestled. Individual rankings come out well, technically it's Tuesday right now, so they'll come out later this morning. So I'll be sure to have an eye out for that and let everyone know where our guys stand. But my prediction was that we'll have probably three or four guys in the national rankings.
Nice, yeah. Oh, John didn't mute quickly enough, and you caught my tenor voice echoing through even more so. Yeah, wrestling ready for a big season. John preseason predicted that 6 guys would qualify for nationals, which would tie a program high. Just this past weekend, just minutes ago, John highlighted Jake Gunning, redshirt freshman heavyweight. This past weekend, in one of the halftime features at the women's basketball game, John Stutzman said that he thinks that Jake Gunning could be an All-American this season. And the way he's wrestled so far, it certainly looks like he's got a chance. He's already in the rankings. He's going to move up after his strong weekend today. And he'll hopefully have a strong performance next week at the New York State Collegiate Championships. I am totally without a shout-out this week, so I'm going to stick in the Olympic sports vibe and try to keep it short. Conrad mentioned that the soccer teams this fall have been especially strong. Obviously, the women we've talked about before followed up their MAC championship season with a hard-fought 1-0 loss to Western Michigan last weekend in the semifinal, and look poised for another strong year next year. They're not losing as much in terms of senior upperclassmen as they did last season. They look like they're set to be in the upper echelon of the MAC for a while. The men's team, on the other hand, has been improving over the last couple seasons. And this year in Stu Riddle's season, they really finished with a bang. A couple weeks ago, we were talking about how they qualified for the MAC tournament for the first time since 2011. And really, in many ways this season, they finished basically a full year ahead of where I hoped they would be. They're a team who this year, they're the core of their talent were juniors and seniors. So I've been saying all year, regardless of what happens in the regular season, they must make the MAC tournament and get a taste of the postseason so that they're ready for next year when Russell Cicerone, one of legitimately the best players in the country, best player in the MAC, is a senior. They've got that postseason talent under their belt. Well, they this year fell down 1-0 in the second half. Were denied a chance to tie the game up on an uncalled handball with about 15 minutes to play. Scored an absolute beauty of a goal with 4 minutes to go in regular time in the 86th minute from Daniel Cramarosa, who's been given a little more leeway to play offense this year and has really stepped up in a big way. He's probably, after Cicerone, the most technically gifted player on the team. Then got the wind at their back again in overtime and really controlled overtime and scored on a Russell Cicerone 35-yard free kick goal. It's his 3rd free kick score of the season, his MAC leading 12th goal of the season. This is after he was named MAC Player of the Year on Thursday, to the disgruntlement of a number of Akron fans that had a little bit of a public fight on Twitter with them. I have no regrets. Cicerone deserved MAC Player of the Year. He led the MAC with 12 goals. He was second with eight assists, and he led the MAC in points. Led us to a win. Got UB to their first MAC final since 2007. In 2007, they lost to Akron on an overtime goal in the 102nd minute, 1-0. Yesterday on Sunday, they lost to Akron 1-0 on a goal in the 45th minute, just before halftime. If you remember, UB had a one-goal regular season loss to Akron 2-1 in the regular season, in which they really played a bunker-down defense, let Akron possess the ball and defended like their lives depended on it, and nearly snuck out a tie, but for a late penalty kick. And this one, they were willing to be a little more offensively aggressive, and it worked for them. They still only gave up one goal, thanks to an amazing performance by Joe Kuda, sophomore goalie, transfer from Robert Morris. Had chances to win. Steven Stryker appeared to earn a red card and a penalty shot in the second half and was not awarded it. Russell Cicerone had a free kick in literally the last minute, wasn't able to convert. Akron's the number 3 team in the country. They'll go into the NCAA tournament as the number 4 seed. Men's soccer lost them by a pair of 1-goal decisions this year. Men's soccer beat them in the MAC semifinal by a goal. Bowling Green spent time ranked this year. Men's soccer beat them by a goal with a great last-minute comeback in the regular season. With a main core of talent that's going to be seniors and juniors this year, this team is already ahead of the schedule that I hoped for them. They've made it to the MAC tournament. They've gotten a taste not only of the postseason, but of winning in the postseason. They really did a good job of holding serve at home this year. Next year, they're going to have Russell Cicerone will be a semifinalist for the Herman Trophy. It's the best soccer player in the country. He should be widely considered one of the best 5 soccer players in the country next year. He'll have a great supporting cast. He was joined by Cramarosa and Kuda on the MAC All-Tournament team, and he was first-team All-MAC, and Hansen and sophomore defender Nick Forrester were second-team All-MAC. That was also announced last Thursday. Really, I've talked for a while now, a really great finish to the season for men's soccer, especially given the, I won't say letdown, but the slightly disappointing finish from women's soccer. We hoped that they would return to the MAC championship and really had a shot at a repeat. Men's soccer showed what they've got coming down the pipeline. There's something really good happening in Stu Riddle's program. That's what I've got. Guys, do you have anything else before we wrap up? All right. Everyone shook their head no. Great. Well, we've gotten news from Tim that, if I'm reading this correctly, I'm not in the right place on my screens, but they think that I'm going to hold off on the 4th kid for a minute. Might have been false labor. Might be early labor. Well, Tim, we all hope everybody's healthy and everybody's safe, and whenever number 4 wants to come join you, that everyone is still healthy and safe. For Conrad, Drew, and John, I'm Matt Gritzmacher. This is UB Bull Run's Bulls and Beers football podcast. We'll be back with you a week from tonight, talking hopefully the win over Akron and UB's impending bowl invitation. That game is on Saturday. Have a good week. Basketball's in action on Wednesday, women's basketball on Tuesday. We'll see you on the blog then. Have a good one.